why not talk about 9, I suppose? 9, the other more spooky film here that we're rating today.
Yeah.
9?
Okay.
Yeah. Now, Taryn, this one was your choice, so what did you think of 9 overall, would you say?
I think 9 is pretty neat.
Yeah.
It's got a nice little story. I think really the strongest thing this movie has going for it is world building. They just craft a very interesting world. I don't know if the plot itself is super interesting.
It's definitely not strong suit. I will absolutely agree with the whole like world building part though. One of my favorite things is like the whole trope of like fucking like tiny people in like the sort of like human world, you know? So just like seeing like how they sort of like navigate it and shit like that, and the stuff that they build, like just their character design, seeing the like, oh, it's like fucking crafted from like this shit, and like fucking 8's like sword that he has, like, oh, it's like a nail and like a blade that he found somewhere. Like that's really fucking cool. Yeah. I love that kind of shit. It's always sweet to see.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I'm trying to think of what I want to say. Like the whole thing of it being like, oh, this scientist like figured out how to use magic to then create AI, and then it took over the world. That's pretty neat. There are one thing I'm confused about is like. So, like, one point of the movie is that he creates the brain by putting his intellect in it, but he can still, like, invent and shit afterwards. So, like, how... Like, is he giving it a portion of his intellect, or can he just copy it into it?
Yeah, I think it's...
Same with... I was just gonna say, same with, like, splitting his soul up into 9 pieces.
Yeah, I definitely think it's like it's like a... piece of it is what we're to assume, because if you remember, after he creates the ninth doll, he kind of dies. So, and I think it doesn't necessarily detract from him. I think it just steals like essence of his life, I guess is a good way of putting it. Because he doesn't necessarily lose his personalities or anything like that, but there is definitely the portion where, you know, he just gets weaker and weaker as time goes on. So I think it's safe to assume that when he gave the intellect to the big robot, it was just like a portion of his soul, didn't necessarily take away from his intellect or anything like that, but, you know.
Well, no, like, the way they explain it is that, like, his intellect and his soul are, like, 2 different things. Like, the robot doesn't have any soul in it, it just has intellect.
I mean, I don't know, because they definitely still use the same device, regardless, so I don't know how that would work.
What?
I don't think they do. Well, like, when we see him doing it with the robot, he has the 4 things on his head, whereas when he's doing it with the rag people, it's the face mask thing.
I'll have you know, they're called Stitch Punks.
Yeah.
That's cool. I didn't know that.
By the way, that thing about the fucking robot, why did it have the fucking, like, little area to, like, plug in the fucking talisman or whatever the fuck? Was it, like, always intended that, like, this thing could someday be destroyed by these little fucking things?
You know? I don't know.
What was the reason for it sucking him up in the first place? I totally forgot about that. Like, why was it doing that?
It seems to use souls as a power
source.
Yeah.
And it was like, I don't know, they said it was a passing line. It was like, or I guess it would be considered a throwaway line. It said something about how it lacked human soul, and for that reason it was XYZ, and I don't remember the exact context, but it was something along those lines.
Yeah. You could also look at it as, like, the guy's intellect seeking out the pieces of his soul. Like, maybe if it got all of them, then the robot would, like, fucking be him.
Maybe.
But in the robot body or some shit.
But...
Why is a piece of the scientist's soul a girl?
You had a little bit of tranny.
I think we all have the feminine side.
That's a sensitive side.
Oh, okay. But she was, like, the least sensitive character.
True. I think there is a point where you get too objective when judging a movie. That's just my opinion, but what do I know? I also don't judge movies very objectively anyway, so that's the big issue.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
This movie is morbid as fuck, though.
I think they froze. They did.
Did they?
That's unfortunate.
That's a big
I took my phone off of the internet, so I don't have this issue.
That makes sense.
Yeah, my computer won't even, like, let me get into the network settings, so I don't know what's going on with that.
Mm-hmm.
I might just unplug my wireless Wi-Fi thing, whatever.
Muy unfortunada.
Yeah, our internet's a real bitch sometimes. I just want to start my computer over, but that's just gonna fuck up Audacity, so...
It will.
Gonna have to deal with it for now.
We can't have that.
Yeah, definitely don't recommend doing that.
Definitely not gonna do that. Guess we're just waiting on Jackson.
Yes. This is gonna be a bitch and a half to edit.
It sure is. Oh. Has he returned?
Is he here? Oh my gosh.
Okay, cool.
There he is.
I'm just gonna speed through my notes really quick, just to get it over with. Overall, I thought this...
Just to get it over with, hang on here, Dylan. You should be, like, interweaving them between the general conversation here.
Alright, fine. I'll interweave them where I can, as I feel like I don't get very many opportunities to speak. Anyway, continue.
Funny shit.
Give us one of them here real quick, Dylan. Just throw one
Yeah,
out.
let's hear it.
I was gonna say, I definitely agree with the whole world-building thing. One thing I think they did really well early on was they established the environment and the tone and the ambiance of the movie, and they very quickly established the threat of the movie. And in some cases, that could be, like, rushed, which is, some people are like, oh, it was too rushed. But I think overall it ended up pacing itself out very well. Because I think the early introduction of the threat is what also allowed the plot to continue. I don't think there were convenient reasons for the plot to move on, if that makes sense. Like, sometimes movies are just like, oh, this happened because of course it has to. It was more like, no, this happened because, he got captured and so on and so forth, if that makes any sense.
I personally think the
kinda see
pacing
what
of
you're
this
saying.
film is like one of its weakest points. It kind of feels all over the place.
Really?
Yeah.
I actually don't have a problem with the pacing too much. I think my
Okay.
biggest complaint with the movie is just the main character and his motivations for getting all of these things done. And it all really just stems back to him being an absolute pussy bitch at the very start. And,
I mean, he was...
and like sacrificing that guy, and he's like in a whole new world, I guess he's a little overwhelmed. And then he immediately, like, a flip switches in him the second he stops talking to that fucking old dude, and suddenly he's like some fucking Chad, and he knows exactly what to do, and he's got a plan, and he's gonna go and rescue this guy who is presumably even potentially dead from some big fucking monster that's been terrorizing them for quite some time. And suddenly, he's just like gets this shit done, and he's like super confident. I don't know where that all came from. And then he's like the one moving us all through the movie, and it all just seems really unnatural. Like, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's
I think that was
definitely
one of my biggest
true.
complaints.
And that did actually remind me of one other point here. That may be my actual biggest point against this film is the voice acting just generally. They got some really stellar voice actors on the fucking cast for this film. They got Elijah Wood again, by the way. We're watching 2 Elijah Wood films this fucking week, apparently. I just don't think any of them really do a great job. It kind of feels like all of them sort of just phone it in for the most part. Like, they don't really care to be here. Like, Elijah Wood has zero emotion behind his voice basically at all times.
I mean, it is like a more of a dystopian film, so I don't really know how much emotion there needs to be in it.
What?
I didn't notice what you're talking about at all,
I didn't
Nico.
notice that at all. I mean, as far as having 9 progress the story and everything, I think it was just more of like a leader role where he's like, okay, obviously this old guy is not going to do anything. We need to do something. Something needs to happen. So yeah, that's why he's trying to progress.
I'm just more saying that I think his character progression was just really accelerated. Like, he became like an entirely new character very quickly and early on throughout the movie, and it just seemed really forced and weird. It's like, all right, we've got a cool concept. We kind of know what we want to do with it, but we don't know how to actually like progress the story. So we're just gonna have our main character, do it all.
Really
I don't
bad.
know. Maybe.
Yeah.
I like how quickly they forgive him after he awakens the big bad and makes their situation infinitely worse than it previously had been.
I mean, look, there's
Yeah.
only so much you can really do in that situation. It's like, well, I guess we have to put a stop to this thing. He's trying to fucking murder us now.
I was gonna say, they
It's
really
like-
had no
He
choice.
didn't know any better. He didn't know anything about it at all.
Yeah.
Can't really
Why
blame the
didn't-
guy.
Why didn't Seven kill the beast way at any point when she was out on her own?
She probably wasn't
I
around.
guess
Because
she's doing her own thing. Maybe she didn't even know the beast existed.
really. Well, I was just gonna. She made it look really fucking easy to
She
kill
probably
it,
just kept to herself
and
a
that
lot.
was literally the last threat in the world for any of them.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just Who really knows how long they've existed before then, though, too? Like, we have no general scope of how long the other ones were alive before he did.
79 years.
Where was that stated?
Has it been 79 years?
Yeah, it starts in 1930, and then it's set in the year that the movie came out in 2009.
Huh.
Is that when it's supposed to be set, really?
Weird.
Mm-hmm.
I did not catch
Why'd it
that.
take so fucking long for 9 to wake up?
And why was, like, the scientist's body, like, not completely decomposed by that point
Yeah,
at all? Like, it was still looking pretty fresh.
Huh.
Oh, it wasn't.
Yeah, it was.
For one, we don't really get a good view of it, but
Within like a year, they should be basically fucking bone.
I mean, they released that gas that killed all living things. Presumably, that killed microbes as well. So, like, they're like the only thing that would. Yeah, the only thing that would have been decomposing him is the elements.
I don't know.
So I don't think it's entirely unrealistic for him to have not been like literal dust.
Speaking of the robots and stuff, though, I think that the dystopian robot, design and everything, I thought that was all really well done. I thought the way that they were constructed and just the general look of them was really well done. Also just because you're cobbling a bunch of stuff together that, like Nico was talking about before, where it's like, oh, interesting, they used this. Like, I think the fucking bird thing had a fan in its, like, chest cavity or whatever that I think it used for flight. So, just really interesting, nuanced little stuff like that. That was pretty cool about it all. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree that the monster designs were pretty good.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think that was one of the strongest suits of the movie. It's just the monster designs are really
Even the
cool.
big robot
That was
dude.
honestly what was keeping me entertained with most of it.
Yeah, 100%. Speaking of the designs, by the way, what did you guys think of the visuals of the film overall, though?
I thought it was very good.
They're okay for the time.
It's fucking depressing, dude. Jesus Christ. This movie is so
Yeah,
dark.
but I think that's the point. It's supposed to be shot in a dystopian world, and they're like, oh, we have to... Well, Nine's perspective is we have to do something about this, and nobody else wants to do anything about it. But, I don't know, I thought overall it was very good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if...
I didn't think the visuals aged super well, personally. I mean,
thought-
the overall tone that they capture is really great, but, like...
I don't know.
I don't know, the actual... Like, I don't know, like the stitching
I don't think this is a very
particularly,
good-looking movie.
It didn't look very good. Like, I don't know, it just didn't age the best.
Literally one of my first notes.
What do you have a specific example?
Yeah, their stitching of the actual character designs. Also the monster designs, like they look super fucking low poly. Like it looks like it's a PS2 game for the most part. Which one of the biggest things I was thinking the whole time I was watching this was like, man, this would make a great game. I wish you could just be playing this right now instead.
Literally one of the first two notes.
Yeah, I think you're completely wrong
hold
on
on.
that.
Why do you think I'm wrong on that, Tanner?
I think it looks fine.
I just don't think it does, man.
I can only think of like one or two things where I was like, oh, that looks bad.
Yeah, my first note here is the graphics aren't bad for a 2009
people.
movie. See, the thing is, when I
The
base...
humans looked awful.
When I judge...
They did look really bad.
When I judge graphics, I also go back to the era in which the movie was created, which is why a lot of the time I'll ask when it was created. I think for 2009, this movie's not bad. I did, however, have another note in here along that line of the introduction of the characters is very video game-like. So, I guess in that aspect, me and Nico share a viewpoint, but I didn't necessarily view that as a bad thing. I kind of took that as a be that as it may kind of thing. But
the Führer looked pretty rough. I don't think the scientist looked bad.
I think most of the people in general looked really rough.
the thing though too is that when you got a movie that doesn't necessarily focus on human involvement, I don't think you're gonna put too much effort into making them look good.
I'm like, I don't know, like just look at the fucking like that first beast there that I just posted in the chat there. That looks like it came out in like fucking Toy Story 1, which is like
It does.
it
Not.
100% does.
Put up a screenshot of Toy Story 1. Pull up like the baby head robot from Toy Story 1.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree.
With who? Okay.
I don't even need to see a side by side. I see it in my head. This looks significantly better.
I definitely don't think so. It looks just about the
Dude,
same. They're like on par.
No,
to me.
you're literally
This
fucking
is
out of
just
your
unfair
mind.
because you're a
dude.
graphic designer.
No, that's not even it. He's just
I mean
wrong.
that too, but
Look, do you know what other films came out in 2009, dude?
no.
What else came out in 2009?
We had shit like Up that came out in 2009, okay? Something that looks considerably better. Coraline came out in 2009. We had like Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs,
Okay, hold
which
on a
also
second.
looks
Hold on a
significantly
second.
better.
Coraline, you can't count. Coraline was a fucking claymation.
It still looks so much better.
It's
though.
a claymation. It's not even the
but
same
it's
vein.
not animated.
And what about G-Force, guys? What about G-Force?
There's still I don't know, man.
What about G-Force? It sounds like you're kind of just saying you don't like the art style. But
That's what
anyway,
I'm
yeah,
saying.
there it is, Nico. Look how much better that looks.
Yeah, look at fucking Woody and Buzz there, dude. They look on par, honestly.
No, you're out of your fucking
don't know,
mind.
man.
Like fucking Sid's character model there looks just about as good as like the humans did in this film.
I think that
Yeah.
goes along the same vein. of what
I agree.
said.
The Fuhrer looked pretty bad. The Doctor looks a lot better.
I think his fingers looked pretty good. The Doctor's fingers, they looked fine.
Okay.
I think they got those down.
Like, look at this. That's on par, right, guys? Fucking retard.
It 100% is on par, dude.
You're
Definitely not.
No.
Jackson, weigh in here.
I definitely think Toy Story 1 looks decent chunk worse than this. And I think it's mostly just with the depth of the model. Like, everything's pretty flat in Toy Story. I think the models look a lot, more fleshed out within this movie is the biggest
And
thing.
the monsters in 9 are so much more intricate, too.
Yeah, definitely.
But they just look like shit, dude. They just look like shit.
They really don't.
don't.
I don't know what else to say here.
Like, I don't know. Like, try and explain it to me, Nico. I'm just not seeing what you're seeing.
Dude, like the fucking head of that thing and the head of the baby, those look like they're the fucking exact same.
I don't agree at all.
I don't agree either.
Alright, in terms of rankings though, guys, do we have any final thoughts on this film?
Not necessarily.
I thought the ending was a little funky.
Yeah, the ending is weird. So, like, the implication of the ending seems to be that by having those chunks of the soul, like, pass on into the sky, it then brought life back to the
That's
Earth.
what I thought. The implication. I had a note that said, "So the souls caused rain." So I wasn't quite.
Goofy
I
ass
figured it was.
ending.
Rain with, like, microbes.
I think it was like
in it.
symbolism. I'm hoping it's symbolism because otherwise it wouldn't really make that.
I don't
much
think
sense.
it was symbolism, it seemed very literal.
Yes, I know, but I'm really
Goofy ass
hoping it was
ending.
symbolism because it wouldn't really make too much sense otherwise. Alright, well, who's ranking
Is
it
that everyone's
first?
final thoughts? Alright, let's get to go into the ranks here. Dylan, you go first.
I thought this movie was pretty solid. I'm gonna give it an A+.
A+. So I don't have fucking... Wait, do I not have 9 in my code here?
Oh,
Hold
man.
on. I'm trying to find it. Do I not have 9? No way.
Oh no.
How dare you?
Oh, I do. Okay, I found
Okay.
it. Woo!
Attaboy. Alright, Jackson, for this
Alright.
transgression of not being able to locate 9, you're up next. What do you think of it?
Oh, no. Me up next? I thought it was a B- film.
There we go. I can live with that.
I thought it was pretty entertaining throughout most of it, to be honest. I don't think the actual animation stuff held up super well. I mean, for the time, I think it looked all right. And I'm not a huge fan of the plot and a lot of the character stuff, but I thought it was entertaining. I thought the monster designs were really cool. I liked the idea of the world building, all that stuff. So I think that elevates it over a decent amount. So yeah, B+ for me, or B- for me.
Nice.
I'm gonna give it a solid B.
Still gonna have the highest rating out of everybody, huh?
You could give it an S tier
That's
here.
what you
Yeah,
think,
let's
Dylan.
let's
I think
hear your
this,
fucking D tier. You
I
fucking...
think this is a C+ film overall, I'd say.
C+,
Okay.
and that puts us at a B.
That's above average. I can live with that.
Okay.
I don't know. I really enjoy this movie. I remember watching it when I was a kid. I watched it again, obviously, here recently. Thought it was still pretty good.
I
Yeah, I'm
thought
glad
it
we watched
was
this
scary as
again.
a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've wanted to watch this for a while now. I remember watching this movie as a kid and thinking it was pretty scary as well.
Which part was it that scared you again? Was it the snake doll one?
Yeah, it was the fucking snake doll thing.
Yeah, that's understandable. I think that scared me as a child as well.
Snake Doll's pretty
It
scary.
was
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
interesting design though.